In today's world, data science and statistics are more powerful than ever. They allow us to make better decisions, uncover patterns, and solve real world problems. But data doesn't exist in a vacuum, and as data professionals, we don't need to just analyze it, we also need to communicate it. That's where web programming comes in. Whether you're building interactive data visualizations or sharing reports or creating web based dashboards, the ability to present your data on the web opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. It lets you not just display your result, but also engage with your audience in real time. In this video and the next, we'll discuss the fundamentals of web programming. In this video, we'll discuss front-end technology, and in the next, we'll discuss backend. Now, what are we talking about when we say front-end and backend? The front-end is everything you see when you visit a website. Think of it as the face of the website. It's the design, the layout, the colors, the buttons, the images, anything the user interacts with. The backend is behind the scenes. It's what actually makes everything run. In other words, it's the part that connects your individual website to the global internet World Wide Web. The database, the servers, the code. As usual, I'm going to give a more high-level overview of the topics and encourage you to learn more on your own. Many people are surprised to learn that a website file is a simple text document similar to a Word file. It just uses markup, or sets of tags that indicate how the text and content should be displayed. So you could think of the tags as signposts or labels that tell the browser, hey, this is a title and I want it to look like this, or this is a paragraph of text. So for example, if I use the P tag around some text, the browser knows that I want that text to look like a paragraph. These directions are called HTML, which is short for Hypertext Markup Language. Just a little fun background in history, HTML was created in 1989 by a British computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee, who is considered the father of the World Wide Web. He was working at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research at the time, which operates the largest particle physics laboratory in the world, and he wanted to create a way to share information between scientists and universities and institutes around the world. His manager called his proposal vague but exciting, but it really took off. The first version of HTML was rather primitive and it allowed simple formatting for text, links, and images. But over the years, HTML has evolved to support much more complex features, and today we have HTML5, which brings many new capabilities. But the fundamental idea behind HTML has not changed. It allows you to structure content and tell browsers how to display it. Now, I want to emphasize how simple an HTML file is, and to do that, I'm going to open a file on my own computer. So we simply open a text file and save it as .html. Now that we have our HTML file, we can open it in a browser like Chrome or Firefox. As we can see, the browser uses these tags to display the content visually, and so here we have our website. Now, we see that this file is only local, so you can look at the URL and see that it starts with file, which means it only lives on our computer. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how to connect this local file to the much greater. Now, as we discussed, HTML uses tags. So a tag is simply the name of an element enclosed in angle brackets like H1 or P or IMG. Some tags like IMG don't actually have a closing tags, while many others do. The content goes between these two tags. So here are a few commonly used tags that represent different types of elements on a web page. So H1 represents the main heading of a page, P is used for paragraphs, A links are used for URL links, and it's how you make text or images clickable. IMG is used to embed images. OL, UL, and LI are used for making lists. Div and span help divide up your page, and form and input help you create forms that people can fill out. Now let's talk a little bit about what the browser sees. When you open a website in something like Chrome or Firefox, the browser reads the HTML file and it renders it. That means it takes all the tags and content in the HTML file and it transforms it into a visual web page that you see and interact with. It's a little bit like cooking a recipe. The HTML file gives the browser all the instructions it needs to display the content. Now, if you want to add more advanced flavors like colors and fonts and animations, you're going to need CSS and JavaScript, but let's save that for later in this video. But to summarize what we just talked about, every website is built with HTML, which is a basic file that gives directions in markup to the browser about how to display the content. It uses the system of tags to tell the browser how elements should be structured and shown. CSS is the language that you use to style and visually format your HTML content. So if HTML is the skeleton of a web page, then CSS is the skin, the clothes, the styling that make the web page look good. CSS allows you to control things like colors, so the text, the background, the borders of elements. It allows you to choose font styles, sizes, weights. It allows you to arrange the elements in rows and columns and grids, and it lets you create movement and visual effects. A CSS rule looks like this. It's made up of two main parts, the selector, which tells the browser which of the HTML elements you want to apply your styles to, and then the declaration block, which contains one or two declarations. A declaration consists of a property, which is what you actually want to change, so the color, the font size, the margin, etc., and a value, which is how you want to change it. Do you want to make it red? Do you want to make it 16 pixels wide? Do you want to make it 10 pixels tall, etc.? Each declaration is separated by a semicolon, and the entire declaration block is wrapped in curly braces. So for example, if we want to change the background color of the web page, we could add this simple CSS rule. First, we target the body, which means we want the entire page, and then we give it the background color light blue. Or if we want all the paragraphs on our webpage to have red text, size 12 font, and use the font Garamond, we can write this. Now, where do you put CSS and how do you tell HTML to use it? We have three options. We can either put it inline within the actual HTML tags, we can put them in between style tags all at once, or in a separate file entirely, and then we can link to that file using a link tag in the HTML file. Now, how do you select the specific part of the HTML page that you want to style? In CSS, we do this with IDs and with classes. Both allow you to apply styles to very specific elements, although they're a little bit different. In general, IDs are used to style one specific element, and so each ID should be unique. Meanwhile, classes are like a category that can be applied to multiple elements. So you can apply the same class to multiple elements and they'll all share the same style. So let's go back to our HTML page and add a few classes and IDs. And now that we have these classes, let's highlight the highlight elements. So here's the code to do that. Now you can see the hashtag, which indicates an ID. So here we're targeting the element that has the ID container. The hashtag means ID. And this is the code that centers that content. And meanwhile, we'll also target the elements with a highlight class. And the way we indicate the class is with the dot over there before highlight. And we're going to give it the background color yellow. Now let's go back and refresh and look at that, our beautiful web page. Now, let's talk a little bit about JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language used to make sites interactive. It allows us to add dynamic content that responds to user actions. So, HTML structures a page and CSS styles it. But JavaScript adds functionality like changing the content of a page without needing to reload it, or validating user input, so making sure an email is entered into a form correctly, or adding drop-down menus or carousels or animating elements in a page. For example, if you want to display alert when a user clicks a button, you could add a small JavaScript function like this. Like CSS, we can either include JavaScript in the HTML page itself, or we can link to it with a special tag called link. Now we see that when the user clicks on a button, then they get an alert that says button clicked. Now, CSS and JavaScript are huge worlds on their own, and as always, I encourage you to dive in on your own and learn more about how they work. But before we end this video, I want to talk about how you can debug HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, one of the really cool things about the web is that you can see the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript of any website on the web. It's really easy to do this directly in your browser. So here's how. You can right-click anywhere on the web page, and then every browser will have an option that looks something like View Page Source. This opens a new tab that shows you the raw HTML code of the web page, and you can see all the tags and elements and content that make up the page. Now, it's important to remember that this will only show you the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so you can't see the server code or backend, which is what we'll cover in the next video. Now, if you want to dive even deeper into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or even more frequently troubleshoot why it's not working, you can use the browser's developer tools. So modern browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and Edge come with built-in developer tools that make it very easy to inspect and debug a web page. So here's a few quick things you can do with them. Now, I'll demonstrate the developer tools in Google Chrome, but every browser has something along the same lines. So in Chrome, to open the developer console, you right-click on the web page and click Inspect, or alternative, you can press Ctrl-Shift-I. So once you open the page, you can see a split view with many different tabs. The Elements tab shows you the HTML structure of the page, and you can click on elements to highlight them and see what they are. You can also edit the HTML or CSS directly and see how the changes would affect the page in real time. The Console tag shows logs, errors, and messages from the JavaScript running on the page, and this is extremely useful for debugging when something's not working right. Developers also use console.log in JavaScript to print messages or values to the console, and this really helps with debugging. If there's an issue with your JavaScript, the browser will often display error messages here. The Network tab shows all the resources like images, scripts, and style sheets that the browser is loading when it accesses the web page, and this can be really helpful for troubleshooting performance or missing resources. Now lastly, I want to put in a quick word about themes and frameworks. After seeing this, you might think, this is a lot, and I'm going to need to train in graphic design for years to get anything done. Well, thankfully, you can also use a theme. Themes are pre-created sets of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that allow you to quickly put together a professional-looking website. You can often find themes online for free or purchase them on sites like ThemeForest and then modify the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for your own use case. Another option is to use a front-end framework. So, for example, one of the most common front-end frameworks used is called Bootstrap, and it was originally created by Twitter. You simply load Bootstrap and then quickly design and customize a responsive website. It comes with pre-built components like buttons, navigation bars, and grids, which are styled and easy. Bootstrap also is very responsive, which means it's very easy to create websites that adapt to different screen sizes, like phones, tablets, and desktop. It's a great choice for beginners who want to build websites quickly without needing to design everything from scratch. So that wraps up our introduction to front-end web technologies, so HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I'll see you in the next video where we talk about the backend, so the code and how to connect it to the internet.